on my church channel. So my church channel's getting it. That's what's happening. Thanks, Steve. I appreciate that. So oops, I blew that one. Thanks, guys. But Byron Young, Jared Verse, and then Josiah Stewart, who played really well out of Michigan last year. And then you got DeJuan Johnson, Kerr Thomas, and Nick Hampton. So it can look a little thin. I do like DeJuan Johnson. DeJuan Johnson played week 3 last year and then didn't play again for 11 weeks. Came back week 14 and then was a pretty regular in the rotation. He ended up getting over 150 snaps. He converted from defensive lineman to edge. I thought that was a better role for him. I think he's more productive than Nick Hampton, who was a 5th-round pick and who was hanging by a thread. And Kerr Thomas, who everyone thought was going to break through last year, spent the whole year on the IR, and he could be brought back and likely will be brought back. But the Rams could be in the market for a second day. I wouldn't do it on the first day, but they could be in the market for a second day edge player in the top 100. I bring that up because I looked at Byron Young's market value. Byron Young's market value right now is listed 4 years. 4 years. Let me make sure I get this exactly right. 4 years at 112 rocks. That means 28 rocks a year for Byron Young. That is a lot of bread, man. That is a lot of bread, and you guys might want to hesitate on that because he's going to be 29 when that contract kicks in, and I don't know. I don't know if I'd want to give that much. Let's see, Steve Ramirez. I read a projected market for Byron Young was 35 for 4 years, which scares me. Yeah, you give him 35. Kid's worth it. He worked at the Dollar Tree. I love him. But I think Josiah Stewart was drafted to be that guy because I think they're going to give their money to Jared Verse, as opposed to Young. So maybe Young is a guy that gets moved next year at some point. I don't know. I don't know. If he plays up to speed and he signs as a free agent, leaves the Rams as a free agent after next year. Let's say the Rams win the Super Bowl and he plays well. What that projection is, the Rams will get a 3rd rounder. I think the Rams could get a 3rd round compensatory pick for him. But yeah, that's a bit pricey, right? That's a bit pricey for him. And again, I'll go back to this. These guys weren't as good as they were supposed to be last year. They just weren't. They just weren't. And they couldn't get to the guy. They didn't finish a lot. So I'd be all for I wouldn't be upset if the Rams, not on the first day, but on second day, if they made a move and drafted an edge player just to fill out that room just a little bit more, because I think Byron Young is going to get a little too costly because one of those guys is going to make a lot of money, but I think the upside with Jared Verse is that much better. You know, again, what is it? We're Ram fans. It's painful, but it is what it is. I do like Josiah Stewart. He had 466 snaps last year, played critical moments, critical parts of games, well through the playoffs. So there's 3 guys there that you can count on. You got DeJuan Johnson a little bit. Kerr Thomas and Nick Hampton are just holding roster spots right now. I doubt they might not make it through the summer, but that is definitely, a lot of people are projecting the Rams taking a how would you say, edge player. I wouldn't sign a free agent unless it was a Khalil Mack or somebody wanting a final run and was willing to come just to chase a ring. Then I'd do it. I would look to move Byron Young because I think that Byron Young proposed contract might be more than what Max Crosby is making. And if you want to pair Byron Young with a 2nd rounder or something and bring in Max Crosby, I'm down with the get down on that because Crosby makes big bucks too. So, all right, Bucky Brooks released his mock draft. This is his 2nd mock draft here, and here we go. Fernando Mendoza, no change. When you see the equal sign, it's where these guys were exactly at where they were placed in the last mock draft, all using the mock drafts from NFL.com, which includes Daniel Jeremiah, Charles Davis, all those guys, and another guy, Gino Fleener. So from last week to this week, Fernando Mendoza, David Bailey, and Francis Mauigoa from Miami are all locked in. Arvell Reese keeps going up and down, up and down. Caleb Downs dropped at one mock draft last week to number 11. He's up to number 5 and going to the Giants. Browns, Spencer Fano drops from 3 to 5. Ruben Bain, who you're hearing a lot about short arms, right? If you've read anything about the draft, you're reading about short arms right now with Ruben Bain. Jeremiah Love going to the Saints. That's a great spot for the Saints. Jeremiah Love is going to be good, and then they can move off Alvin Kamara. The other one here, Carnell Tate, moving back up as the first receiver. I shared on Monday that what you have quite a bit here is Mekhi Lemon, Jordan Tyson, Carnell Tate, and now Carnell Tate has leapfrogged and gone number 1 here, the first receiver taken to the Chiefs at number 9. Keldrick Falk is another name that keeps climbing in this draft, and now they have him projected to the Bengals. And again, I'm using NFL.com, just using their guys to help keep kind of the pace with all the projections. And Mansur Delane, a corner, you see him. Akeem Mesidor, edge, Miami. He's a guy that's gone up and down from 10 to 20 in that range. And then they have Bucky Brooks projects Jermod McCoy, cornerback to the Rams out of Tennessee. He's down from 11. Now, again, that is the reason I showed you that list of Ram corners taken in the top 100 in the common draft era from 66 forward. And that just gives you the little bit of pause to say, we can draft a corner, but it doesn't mean we're going to have a corner to plug in and play on day 1, right? Because you miss a lot on corners. You miss on corners, I think, a lot more than you do on receivers. And, a receiver drops a pass, you might lose a first down. A corner loses confidence or is not ready to play, and you're giving up touchdowns. And so if the Rams draft a corner at 13, I'm not going to be happy unless that guy is ready to plug and play. You see the Ravens there. You see Sonny Styles back to the Buccaneers. That guy's been going up and down in the draft. At a later spot, I wouldn't mind the Rams taking him. Jordan Tyson to the Jets. Now, look what you got there. First 16 picks. Guess who's missing? Who's missing on those first 16 picks, right? Who's missing on those first 16 picks? It's Mekhi Lemon. Bucky Brooks has Mekhi Lemon dropping all the way to 21 to the Pittsburgh Steelers. And Steeler fan Rob in Missouri is thrilled about that. Look where he's down from. The last mock draft that we showed with Mekhi Lemon on Friday had him going 6th overall. He was moving up from 13 to 9 to 8 to 6. And this mock draft drops him back to number 21. McCoy scares you, Steve, because of the ACL injury. I'd stay away. Delane is the only cornerback I'd go at 13. And Delane is generally, in most of these mock drafts, always the number 1 guy, right? Always the number 1 guy that goes. I understand the need, but we know this. You see these guys play, and, man, you don't know with these corners how they're going to be. Couple of names here. You see Emmanuel McNeil Warren. Last week, he was projected to the Rams at 29, going to the Vikings at 18. Avian Terrell, who wasn't even in the first round last week, going projected to the Cowboys at 20. Then you see Lemon. You see the Chargers getting Kenyon Sadiq. Would that be kind of cool? I know the Chargers are going to have some needs, but and I'm not a Charger fan. Omari and Hampton healthy. Their 2 bookend tackles healthy. Bring back Keenan Allen. Trade for A.J. Brown. And then draft a tight end like Kenyon Sadiq. I think that would be the best thing they could do for Justin Herbert. And that's what it should be all about. It should be all about giving Justin Herbert everything he needs. But again, you need everything because you're going against the Spanos family and that curse. So Eagles, Casey Concepcion at 23 would replace an A.J. Brown. And then, of course, Denzel Boston. Furthest back I've seen Denzel Boston, wide receiver Washington. And if you watch his tape, that guy who talked about him, I don't know which scout it was, looking like Puka, he looks like Puka. And they got him 24th overall to the Browns. Caden McDonald, right where he was last week to the Bears. I like Caden McDonald. Malachi Fields, the only time we've seen him in the first round was in Daniel Jeremiah's first mock draft after the Senior Bowl and projected 26 to the Bills by Daniel Jeremiah, as well as Bucky Brooks, Notre Dame. I like Malachi Fields, but I'd like one of those 4 guys that are ahead of him more. And then you've got, let's see here, you're looking at Caleb Lomo, Caleb Banks, and then, of course, Dylan Thieneman projected to the Rams. So Bucky Brooks has 2 defensive backs projected to the Rams. I just can't see it. I can't. I can't see it. Very rarely do you get an opportunity to draft game-changing type players, field tilters at the 13th spot. I think the Rams have to take that weapon when they can. And Monroe Freeling and Cassius Howe back in the first round. All right. Players that fell out of the first round. And I always like putting this in because it's all trending, right? TJ Parker, Lee Hunter, Chad Bacentis, he's Texas A&M. And then Ty Simpson, Blake Miller, and the kid from Arizona State. I'm anxious to see Daniel Jeremiah's next mock draft because Max Ian H.R., Daniel Jeremiah was very up on him. Look at that name, Colton Hood. Remember the early mock drafts around the Senior Bowl. Colton Hood was as high as 13 projected to the Rams. He has not been in the first round for 2 weeks, so something to keep a look at there. R. Mason Thomas was a name that came up at 61, thinking about him. If the Rams were thinking about drafting another edge player, R. Mason Thomas was, and Zion Young. I didn't think he would fall back that far, but R. Mason Thomas, who was projected first round at one time, maybe it was a bit of a reach, but Zion Young, you see him. Both those guys could be solid second rounders if the Rams are thinking in regards to drafting another edge player. All right, cool. I do apologize for that, guys. I think what happened is that when I was loading up, I actually clicked. So my church was getting a football broadcast instead of you guys. So if you're on from YouTube, let me know. I appreciate you, Steve, watching from X, and of course, Mr. Stewart from Facebook. All right. We've ran through all of that. We're at the 35-minute mark. Boom, boom, boom. Man, I hit everything. You know why? Because I'm not talking to anybody much today. All right, let's do Stone Groove. Let's talk about Ram history.
It was a Stone Groove, my man.
On February 25th, 1998, the Rams signed Ricky Proehl. Now, think about Ricky Proehl. He was there in the heart of the greatest show on turf era. He was there when Torrey Holt, Isaac Bruce, Oz Azir Akeem were there. Those are your 3 receivers. Ricky Proehl was number 4, right? He was the 4th receiver. Ricky Proehl, in 5 years with the Rams, caught 207 passes, 16 of them for touchdowns, and a pretty big fat one in the NFC Championship game for the 99 season. I thought that was pretty cool to mention that. But Ricky Proehl, what a great NFL career Proehl had, and he made it back to the Super Bowl with Carolina when they lost to the Patriots. So that guy had a great career. He got out of Arizona where he originally started with the Cardinals. Really, really good career. Tomorrow, since we're not on the air, 2015, the Rams released Kendall Langford. Now, I know people aren't going to remember Kendall Langford. He played with the Rams for 3 seasons from 2012 through 2014. He was a defensive tackle, 6'6", 305. But he was playing there alongside Chris Long, Aaron Donald, William Hayes, these guys, Eugene Sims. That when the Rams had really good front, a really good defense. They were running Ogletree and Robert Quinn out there during those years with Laurinaitis in the middle. The Rams had a really solid defense, and that was the tragedy of it all. They couldn't get over the hump. A guy like Kendall Langford, you'd love to have him in the rotation nowadays. And I know he doesn't amount to much in the way most people think, but I really liked Kendall Langford. So I wanted to drop that in there. All right, you guys are here now. Sorry about that, guys. It was my bad. My church, Burbank Faith Virtual, was actually getting that broadcast. So I do apologize. Let me do one more Rams history thing here, and I'll come to your questions there. Terry, Tim, and USA expat, and Manny Vasquez. I am sorry, I biffed it today. Okay, born on this day in 1950, Jim Bertelsen. He passed away a few years ago, but Jim Bertelsen, I don't know, many people don't remember Jim Bertelsen, but he was one of my first Rams in 72, rookie, ran for like 581 yards. He was just this guy. And you forget, if you watch some highlights, the dude was a lot quicker than people remember. A little bit small, played a lot of fullback, caught the ball, blocked, did all sorts of things. And so the backstory to this was in 1971, this is where I nerd out. So allow me to nerd out. In 1971, the Chargers traded Dickie Post, who was this little small scatback, do-everything guy for the Chargers for a few years. They traded him to the Denver Broncos, and they got a second-round pick for him. What the Broncos were thinking, I do not know. They had Floyd Little. I don't know what they were thinking. But 6 months later, the Chargers, in January of 72, took that second-round pick and sent it to the Rams, along with another second-round pick in 73 and a third-round pick in 73, and along with another guy named Jeff Staggs, we'll just throw him away, for Deacon Jones, right? Now, I never saw Deacon Jones play for the Rams. My first Ram games were 72. Deacon's last games with the Rams were in 71, but Deacon Jones is legendary, right? And the Rams moved off Deacon Jones, but they got 2 number 2s and a number 3 for him, right? So this was the cool part. Who did they take with that second-round pick in 72? They took Jim Bertelsen. And Bertelsen, unfortunately passed away in May of 2021. But Bertelsen gave the Rams several good years. He ran for 854 yards in 73, made the Pro Bowl, basically as Lawrence McCutcheon's sidekick in 73. And if you watch the highlights, this guy had pretty good burst as a running back. Now, I can't remember because I don't have the list here in front of me, but with that second round pick that the Rams got in 73, I think that's the one they used on Cullen Bryant. And so basically Deacon Jones netted the Rams, Jim Bertelsen, and Cullen Bryant. And that bridged the Rams all the way to Super Bowl 14. Cullen Bryant scored in Super Bowl 14 and then played a few more years with the Rams. But I do like mentioning Jim Bertelsen when I get a chance because he was there at the beginning. And then also, I believe celebrating his birthday today, I think he is 53 years old, is Marshall Faulk out of San Diego State, Hall of Famer. I've been hearing a lot of people talk about greatest backs ever. And, there's not going to settle it for me and stuff because I'm a Lawrence McCutcheon guy. Then I'm a Wendell Tyler guy. And I really like Eric Dickerson. Steven Jackson, to me, is a Greek tragedy. Steven Jackson, to me, is a heartbreaker that he had to suffer with that franchise for so long. And then, like Todd Gurley, you like these guys they got. But Marshall Faulk, you talk about a guy that could do everything. And I remember hearing Coward say a few weeks ago that Christian McCaffrey is one of the best running backs he's ever seen. Then obviously he never saw Marshall Faulk because there's Christian McCaffrey, and then he's the poor man's Marshall Faulk because you could run Marshall Faulk anywhere. That guy was off the charts. Just a great, great, great football player. And at least on the field, class act because he worked in the slow transitioning. He pulled his game back as Steven Jackson began to assert himself in his career. Yeah, I'm a little wild on that one. There you go. Okay. I promise now I'll get to everything. USA expat. If Snead has his eye on a special player, I can see the Rams trading up from 13. I can too. I can. But boy, it better be special, right? It better be like boom, boom, because I think you can get that receiver you want at 13. But that guy you grab, if you move up, boy, that dude better be going to Canton the week after he signs, right? Otherwise, we're going to give him a lot of crud. There you guys go. YouTube. I know I blew it. Tim Burns, the great Tim Burns, new Oakland A podcaster. Tremaine Edmonds is available from Chicago to trade, possibly a 5th or 6th pick, 17 rocks against the cap, but he's a 2-time Pro Bowler and can stop the long runs we allow. Thoughts? I saw that Bear defense down the stretch. Was he playing or was he out? Was he out he play in that game against the Rams? I thought about that, but another name that came to mind for me about linebackers was Bobby Wagner intends on playing another season. That guy remains productive. You can get Bobby Wagner cheaper than 17 rocks. Tremaine Edwards, still wants his place in this world, where Wagner is made his bones and might want to come and get a ring. Would you bring back Bobby Wagner, Mr. Burns? Terry Wright, calling me a weirdo. There you go. All right. Just go easy, Miss Wright, because I'm going to be in the room when you come in. Watch out. USA Expat, I was in the stadium for that great catch. Oh, the Ricky Prohl catch. Boom. There you go. Steve Ramirez, Bertelsen scored the go-ahead TD in Texas's national title game in '69. Is that when Nixon declared them national champs? Was that the one? So I didn't see it, right? My first experience to college football was brief glimpses of the 73, which would be 74 Rose Bowl that Ohio State won 42-21. And then late in the season in 74, my first full game, college football game I saw from start to finish was 55-24 SC over Notre Dame. And of course, you're hooked for life after that. I don't know if there's anything greater than Fight on Troy and all that. Yeah. Your take on the new logo. I did not see the new logo. I'll look at it and I'll talk about it on Friday. I have not seen that. Let's see. Manny Vasquez, you was watching the game on TV. That stadium looked like it was rocking in the greatest show on turf days. I saw it on a 13-inch black and white screen because I couldn't stand to be around anybody else that day. Yeah, that's where I stand on that one. Samuel Haynes. Okay, Tribe, my brother and I were at the game too. Wow. All right. Prohl had the catch versus Tampa Bay. Till this day, he says it was the loudest event he's ever been to in his life. That's amazing. See, I'm looking at you guys for history. Mr. Ramirez and I, when we were kids, we were at the 75 championship game, and that wasn't a very pleasant memory, but at least you guys got one. You guys got one. Good for you guys, Expat and Tribe. Good for you. I got hosed, man. I got absolutely hosed. Let's see, Steve Ramirez. It was before AP named NC champs after the Bulls. And yes, Nixon did do that. All right, cool. We got that in. All right, guys. I can go back over the top if you want. If you weren't here, I don't know how much you got to see because I did my first 20 minutes doing my church broadcast instead of you guys. Let me highlight you again on what Joe T wants. I want a receiver at 13. If Jimmy G walks, I want Stenson Bennett. I saw a report talking about trading for Spencer Rattler, and I said if I'm going to make a move for a quarterback that's a reclamation project, I want it to be Will Levis. And then if not Will Levis, I want it to be Anthony Richardson. I'd take a swing at Anthony Richardson. You see what I've said about drafting a corner, signing a corner. I'd like Jalen Watson, another toilet clogger in the defensive front. I'd see if Langford was available, Kendall Langford. Draft another tackle, third round. Make a move for a veteran defender before giving that money to Byron Young. And then sign Tyler Linderbaum. I think it's highly unlikely, but Tyler Linderbaum at center, Rams getting a stud receiver at 13. It's where heaven came down, right? That would just be amazing for the Rams. I would just do anything for that thing to occur. I also brought up the UFL getting rid of the tush push. You guys have heard my argument for a couple years now. I'd rather have the players monitor that. I'd rather have the players jump the snap and smash the center and the offensive lineman and give up the first down if they have to, but make it so they don't want to run the tush push anymore. Also, if you're going to run the tush push, okay, if you want to change it, make sure they can't push from behind, because what we're seeing a lot of times, Jalen Hurts is forward momentum is stopped, no whistle is being blown, and then these guys come in and push him over after momentum was stopped. Also, the tush push reveals the subjectivity of the NFL's replay assist. The NFL somehow has the ability when a team's lining up for a kickoff to go back and award 2 points to the Seahawks, right? But they don't have the ability when they got a camera right overhead watching Philly linemen jump the snap and they just let it go, right? If you're going to run the tush push, let the players settle on the field, but also officiate it properly and start calling these forward momentum issues. You can assess everything digitally nowadays. Find out if their forward momentum was stopped. Also, the UFL is tinkering with the idea of 4.60 yarders. And I suggest that 60 might be too close, that we should have the 63 yard, the Tom Dempsey line. If you kick it from 63 or further back, then you get 4 points. If you kick it from the 33, which is where extra points are kicked, if you kick it from the 33 on in, it's only worth 2. And if you kick it inside the 20, then you only get 1 point. And again, what is the goal here? If the goal is to create drama, then let's create some freaking drama, right? And that's my thought process on that. Let's hope that catches you up a little bit on how I started the show. Let's see. I see people on X are finally following me on my Drew Aller take. Steve, I actually heard someone, I'm trying to remember which one it was. They actually said a Drew Aller in the 5th round of the Rams with Cliff Kingsbury to kind of mentor him for a year might be the ticket. And I thought of you. So there you go, man. I was thinking of you. Manny Vasquez. The interior offensive line would be unbelievable if they managed to get Linderbaum maybe 2 1,000-yard rushers. And I'll put this to you. I'll put this to you. If you signed Linderbaum, which is projected market value right now is 4 years, 80 rocks, 53 rocks guaranteed. I think I would do that before I gave Byron Young 4 years, 112 rocks, and 28 per season, right? I think I would do the Linderbaum thing because centers, as we're finding out in this draft, right now, you can't find a center in this draft unless you're late in the 2nd round, early 3rd, and those might be reaches as well. No one's letting a free agent center get away, right? But edge rushers, we're getting them every year in the draft. Every stinking year, we're getting them in the draft. Sign them, right? Sign Linderbaum, draft a killer receiver at 13, and solidify this offense, right? And then what you want to do at 29, double up, trade back, and then grab a couple of corners if you want. A couple of corners and a edge rusher. Or sign Linderbaum, hold on to your picks, package Byron Young and a 2nd rounder or something. You got capital that reaches into next year as well, and trade him to the Raiders for Max Crosby. I'd give that money to Max Crosby. Rams got money to play with, right? And yeah, I think there's a lot of options on the table here for the Rams. USA Expat, cut Shelton. Well, you do have Shelton under contract for 1 more year, and the guy can play center or guard. And so if you've got him and you've got Diedick and then you've got Quisenberry, and then maybe you draft a 5th rounder, a 4th, moving to the 4th round tackle to develop, then you've got depth on that offensive line for this year, and then we revisit it going into the offseason into 2027. Manny Vasquez. Stafford only got sacked 24 times, but a lot of the pressure was right up the middle where Coleman Shelton patrols. The tackles were great, and yeah. And the thing is, too, is that I'm trying to be nice here because I've been so anti-Shelton, is the fact that Stafford has the ability off the edge to step up, right? Make that throw, make the adjustment, sidearm it, right? Up the middle, he's dead meat, right? We know he's toast. So was Tom Brady. And Coleman Shelton had the best year of his career. As I'm saying it, I was not a fan of him signing, but they always go back to that argument. Jared Goff got the Rams to a Super Bowl, but the Rams knew they could do better, and they went out and got Matt Stafford. Coleman Shelton was good enough to get the Rams to an NFC Championship game, but if a Tyler Linderbaum is out there, and the Rams are thinking like, man, maybe we're talking about all in. I don't know if anybody has all in with a center being on their mind, but you lock up that kind of an anchor. Think of this also. If Stafford was to retire after next year, right? If he was to retire, now you've got a center there for your next quarterback, right? You know, fantasy, if it's Will Levis, a Drew Aller coming in, a bridge guy or whatever. Now that guy's got a center there that can protect him, right? And I think either Dotson or Avila, one of those guys will be re-signed. I don't know if both of them will be re-signed, but we'll see it. And there you go. There. You just said it there, Steve. Tell Linderbaum, come win a Super Bowl with us. Do you realize we talked about this? I think I wrote about it in one of the columns. That I hope you guys appreciate it. I'm posting almost every day now one of my FanView columns, as well as letting you guys know when we're on the air, when I'm not screwing up the stream. But Linderbaum wants a contract, right? He's the best center in the NFL, right? He's going to get what he wants. Why re-sign with a team that's not going to go anywhere? Because you're signing Lamar Jackson, who's limited arm talent, who's not a bad quarterback, but he's not a great quarterback. He's making 74.5 rocks this year and next year, and he wants to renegotiate a new contract. And he doesn't want to renegotiate to take less money. He wants to renegotiate to take more money. You're not going to the Super Bowl in Baltimore, guys. You're just not. I mean, it's not happening. Not only would you have to have an amazing, healthy season, I don't even think Baltimore is going to win the AFC North next year. And then waiting for you is still Josh Allen and Buffalo. And then you got Denver and New England on the rise. What are we talking about here? Jacksonville has turned a corner, right? The Texans, if they could straighten out a few things with C.J. Stroud, Baltimore is not going to a Super Bowl. So, yeah, Tyler Linderbaum, get out of there, right? Get out. USA expat, Linderbaum would also make 13 personnel go to the next level. Is it possible, right? I mean, is it possible, right? You know, maybe if we did the whole Camp North Star, if we all hold hands and prayed for God to come down and point his hand to our side of the field, maybe it would come about, right? Maybe it would come about because, man, isn't it about rings after a while? And he'd be the top paid center in football. And it makes more sense to pay him to be the center than it would be to pile on. And I love Byron Young, but I don't want him at 28 rocks a year. Not when I'm going to have to pay Jared Verse, and not when I can get another. Josiah Stewart might not be Byron Young, but Josiah Stewart is an incredible simulation. Remember when Beatlemania came out when we were kids? Maybe you don't. Beatlemania came out, right? And the whole thing was, it's not the Beatles, but an incredible simulation, right? And Josiah Stewart can give us what Byron Young is giving us, right? We don't know. Maybe even a little bit more. The guy's got a monster motor. And then you draft another guy. Edge, receivers, these guys can be found in the draft almost every single year. It's just, again, getting past that emotional attachment, right? Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at on that one. I could show you a couple other things, but I talked about the corners, guys, and the corners are just hit and miss. Let me just show that one more time with the cornerbacks. If you take a corner in the top 100, this is the Rams since the common draft era began in 1966. These are the cornerbacks the Rams have taken in the first 100 of the draft. All right. That George is no relation to Jack or Jim, but in bold are the guys that were hits. They don't even have to be all-stars. What's up? What's up, Matt? What's up, Manny? Thank you for clicking on. You got Monty Jackson was an all-pro. Eddie McMillan was a pro. Pat Thomas, Leroy Irvin, those guys were all pros. Jerry Gray was an all-pro. Todd Light was solid for 10 years with the Rams, and Dre Bly was a playmaker. But look at all the misses. Youngblood, Cliff Hicks, Darrell Henley, Steve Israel, Dexter McLean, Jacoby Shepard, Travis Fisher. Ron Bartell got a second contract. We talked about him. Ty Hill, bust. Jonathan Wade. Look where they're drafted. 84th overall, 66th overall, 15th overall, 65th overall. Jerome Murphy. These guys were whiffs. Janoris Jenkins dropped to the second round because he was a head case, and Rams got a lot of clicks out of him. And Trumaine Johnson might be the best of the bunch until he went free agency. Rams got the best out of him. Franchise tagged him for 2017, I think it was. And then he went to the Jets, and he was done. And the Rams got the best they could out of him. LaMarcus Joyner was the last guy franchise tagged in 2018. I think he went to the Raiders, and he was more of a hybrid, more of that star guy, right? A little bit more, although that was in the Wade Phillips days. But But David Long, look where he was drafted. There is no solid. If you draft a corner, you have to be absolutely sure that guy's getting ready to play. If not, I want those receivers. And please go watch Denzel Boston's video. It is awesome to watch. Well, so is Makai's. I mean, they're all good to watch. Let's see. Manny Vasquez. Rams culture is well known throughout the league. Players will come to LA because of it. Oh, man. I would love it. Paul has joined us. And, of course, Manny is saying hi to everybody. Guys, if you have any more questions at the 50-minute mark, I'm going to end this at 60 minutes. If you've got something, throw it at me. Hey, I didn't get a shout out from anybody for making my posts. You know, I've been posting the last 3 mornings. I want you guys to give me a little props on that. Thank you very much. Manny Correa, Pastor Joe, I'm hearing Rams are high on Chandler Rivers Duke. If you're hearing the Rams are high on him, I will look him up. I will make sure I look him up. We need to protect Stafford. O-line is haggard. Well, we got, Avila, Dotson, but they've been out there. Dotson was a fluke injury. Someone stepped on him, right? And he was banged up there. And then Avila, I agree. But we got one more year. We're not going to replace those guys. And where we want more, they were a very good offensive line. Stafford was sacked only 24 times last year. So, man, you sign a Linderbaum. You deal with Coleman Shelton's bruised ego, make him your backup center and flex guard. You still got Justin Dedick on the roster, who's a blue-collar guy. You don't want him starting the whole season, but for 3 or 4 games he can start. And then you've got your tackles. You draft another tackle to develop, and you've solidified this offensive line. But Linderbaum would be 4 years. Linderbaum would take us to the next decade and into the beginning of the next quarterback's career, right? Let's see. Paul, I like your post. They help remind me when you're going to be live. Thank you very much. That column, FanView, I used to write it once a week. Then when we went online, this is years ago, I started doing it a couple times a week. And there was a stretch there during football season, high school football season. I was writing that, 3 or 4 times a week. And so I just like pumping out that stuff. I do miss the writing. I don't know. I do miss sports writing. It's different than this. And there was part of me that thinks maybe everything will come full circle, that people will go back to reading again. Wouldn't that be cool if everyone went back to reading again along with this to complement it? Do you think the Rams will draft another running back in the draft? No, I think they made their move for Jarquez last year. They've locked up Kyron for the second contract, and Blake Corum's just coming into his own, right? That's where I think the Rams are at. I don't think they're going to draft a guy. I think, if Jeremiah Love is there at 13 and someone really wants Jeremiah Love, like the Vikings or somebody, then you start making a deal, right? Because we've seen Jeremiah Love from Notre Dame going as high as number 4 and dropping as far back as number 18 in this draft. And if the Rams are there at 13 and the guy they want is not there, or a guy they feel they can get later, like a Denzel Boston. If Denzel Boston is still looking in that 16 to 22 range in the draft, or 16 to 24 range in the draft, then man, okay, I got Jeremiah Love. All right, I'll move back to 18 now, so the Vikings can move up and grab him, and then I'll take something else in this draft. I'll use that capital to put to good work. As Patton once said in that movie Patton, he says, "You give me that gasoline, I'll put it to good use. I'll kill Germans with that gasoline." You give me a really good draft pick for a receiver, we'll put that draft pick to good use. We'll score touchdowns with that draft pick. So there you go. Manny Correa. I remember when the Rams were known for O-line 4 or 5. Oh yeah, yeah. I'm past the hour mark. I can't get into that one. I'd be happy to get into that on Friday. That's one of my favorite topics. I think what I'll do, Manny Correa, if you guys come back and look at my posts, I'll find a column I wrote a few years ago on my website that nobody read, talking about the Rams offensive line from 1965 through like 1991, starting with Ken Einman and going through the end of the Doug Smith era. as the Rams had 3 centers carry them through that. And then you're talking Dennis Hara, Joe Schiavelli, Tom Mack, Irv Pankey. You're talking about all those guys. We'll talk about that. Manny Correa, no receiver at 13. Are you crazy? We got to take a receiver at 13. Anyway, I'll let you guys go. I went long. I do apologize for streaming on the wrong platform. And thank you for letting me know. Let me leave you with a little proud heritage. God bless, guys. Be sure to check out my column. It is here on YouTube. It's also at Mid-Valley Sports. It's also on Twitter. And it's also at joetbooks.com. All right, guys. God bless. Take care. I do appreciate all of you. Have a great day. We will see you soon.